So this evening's lectureship is going to be based on, great. So this evening's lectureship is going to be on some themes, such as what are the things that we need to know before, or we need to have before applying for graduate school? What is statement of purpose and personal statement, and how different are they? How do we even write professional email to seek for a potential supervisor when we are applying for graduate school? And what are some of the graduate school exams that we need to write in order to position ourselves to be competitive, or position ourselves in such a way that we'll be able to get the opportunity to pursue our studies in graduate school? Is CV important, and how do we even write a competitive CV? How do we search for our university of choice? What are the number of applications that we need to put in, and what is the successful rate of getting a partial or full scholarship? And how do we even get our visa? So the details in visa. When should we start applying for graduate school? And is research experience, or are research experiences and community work important in applying for graduate school? But our resource personnel is highly equipped to take us through all these things this evening. So kindly get your pen and notepad and then note down some of the things that you will be saying. At the end of the presentation, if you have any question, there will be a session whereby we'll be given the opportunity to ask the resource personnel question. So without wasting much time, let me move on to introduce the resource personnel, and then humbly ask you to take over this evening's discussion. Our resource personnel, as I initially said, is or has been a student at the Department of Biochemistry before. He has also been, he has served the department by being the vice president for the GAPSA, or Ghana Biochemistry Student Association, University of Ghana. He has also been a research assistant at WACBIB, and has also been a teaching assistant at the Department of Biochemistry, Cell and Molecular Biology. Currently, this man is doing his doctoral studies at Stanford University, California, in USA. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very humbled and honored to present to you our resource personnel this evening in the person of Mr. Kwamina Nyame. So before Kwamina, you start, I would like to say that please, if you don't have any question, or if you enter the meeting, kindly mute your mic. And once Kwamina starts, please kindly mute your mic. If you have questions, note them down. When it's time for questions and answers, we shall
I'm
be
sure it's a network problem or something.
to ask. So, Kwamina Nyame, if you can hear me, we are glad to have you this evening, and the ball is in your court now.
All right, thank you, Frank. I hope everyone can hear me, and thanks for the. I know I'm speaking to my. I think Philip's audio is on, so if you could unmute himself. So if you can. And like you rightly said, I just started a PhD program with Stanford University, and for me, I feel there are many opportunities out there, especially for upcoming scientists like ourselves, that we need to know. There are many things that I learned during the graduate application process, and there are so many things I ended up learning even after the graduate application process. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for joining this call. I know it is not easy after the election results was announced. It's not going to be easy trying to focus, especially when there is so many jubilants in your area making all sort of noise. But I believe that this is a great course, and if you have an aim of going to graduate school, then you are not mistaken to be here, and hopefully you're going to learn a lot. I don't know if I could just project a short presentation that I have. This will not take long, about 10 minutes. Then I will quickly go through the questions that I was trying to actually speak about. So I'll share screen. I hope you can see my PowerPoint screen.
Yes, please. You can.
Okay, so yeah, I'm trying to send it in projector mode. Okay. So the way forward, my graduate school experience. So quickly, I just wanted to tell you a bit about myself and my application story. I was also a teaching assistant and a research assistant in as much as I was trying to get into graduate. And yeah, so just a quick one. I guess Becky is okay. Let me go on. So just a quick one. So I applied to MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Rice University, Iowa State University, University of Rochester, and unfortunately, I was bounced for these particular schools. And I also tried my luck on University, UMass, and Wesleyan University. Unfortunately or unfortunately for me, these schools called me late for an interview, and when they called me, I hadn't made my mind of where I was going to have my graduate school. And fortunately, I was able to get into these five schools: Washington University, Purdue University, Florida State University, Augusta University, and Kinney. And lastly, I ended up in Stanford University after they gave me an offer back in April 2020. So first of all, I want you to notice that basically we know people have to transition between from high school to the university level to do your master's, either MPhil or MSc. Then next you're going to do a straight PhD. But then my simple advice is, if you know you want to do a straight PhD, like if you know you want to do a PhD, right, have it at the back of your mind that you will definitely want to be a doctor or philosopher in a particular field, then you might as well just do a straight PhD instead of going through the master's level. Because at the end of the day, whether you have a master's or not in the States, you're going to do your PhD for at least 4 years, 4 to 6 years, and it has an average of 5 solid years. So talking about graduate school application, this cartoon here, which I have shown, should just let you understand that graduate school application in itself is like trying to pass molecular rearrangement. It's a whole stress on its own. And it comes with diligence, and it comes with focus, and most importantly, reaching out. Just as we are having this discussion, you are going to learn a lot, and it doesn't just end here. It is good to reach out to me. It is good to reach out to anybody that have passed through these processes. It's good to reach out to even students that are within the schools that you want to attend. So for example, if you want to do your master's at WACBIB, it's good to reach out to people who have applied to WACBIB before. If you want to reach out to people who are doing PhD in the state, you want to reach out to even the student. For example, if you're applying to MIT, you would want to reach out to current students in MIT, and you can easily find their emails on their website. For example, if you send 5 messages, you don't expect each and every one of them to respond, but then you have at least 1 or 2 responding, and that is going to help you. So graduate application itself is a bit of a stretch, but if you really understand the game, then you don't have much stress going forward with your application, and you can send a wonderful application even with a low GPA, and you should get it. And in the same way, if your application does not look so good, you can have a 4.0 and still not get into any other school. But quickly, what I missed from the schools that I showed, I just didn't want to show you schools that I applied, but I wanted you to see the fact that if you guys recall, I got bounced in MIT and ended up at Stanford University. But if you look at QS ranking and higher times ranking, you can actually see that Stanford is higher than MIT when it comes to higher times ranking. So what I just want you to know is that a very good school like MIT was able to bounce me, and a good school like Stanford was able to also accept me. And in the same case, I got bounced in, or I got rejected in schools that were supposedly low. For example, Iowa State University. And at the same time, I got into schools that are not really top schools like Florida State University and Purdue University. So what I just want you to know is that the application is a holistic process. To begin with, it's a holistic process, and you shouldn't undermine yourself. You shouldn't just create your own limits that, oh, because I am this, I think I can get into this school, and I able to get into this particular school, or because I have a 4.0, I will just apply to, if I apply to this lower school, then I should get it because I have a very good GPA. You'll be shocked that a lower school can bounce you and a higher school can actually admit you, and vice versa. So there is no formula. So even as you are applying, I would entreat you quickly. I would use this to answer one of the questions: how many schools? I would say apply as much as you can. If it's 100 schools that you want to apply, though that is extreme, you should just go ahead and apply to 100 number of schools. So I would just say as many as you can, because I have a friend, one of my mates, I will not disclose his name. He applied to about 8 schools and ended up in a single school. You understand? And I guess also have another mate who applied to just 2 or 3 schools and didn't get into any school at the end of the day. So I'll just entreat you to just search for schools or programs that you want to apply to and make sure you can apply. But it comes with a lot of factors which we are going to discuss as we move on. So why graduate school in the first place? So if you don't want to do research, I think graduate school is a bad place for you to enter, at least for the period of the graduate program. So all graduate programs are all centered on research. So if you want to do research or you have an aim of becoming a world-class scientist, then graduate school will be the best for you. And also you want to go to graduate school perhaps to become an expert in a field, like we can see these professors that I'm shown here. We all know them. They are experts in their fields that they have. And also, you can get travel opportunities. So as you can see here, because of graduate application, I had a chance to visit Stanford University at no cost, just to have an interview. And once you're in a program like this, you get a chance to also travel to different countries. If not for COVID, you go to wherever and they'll just sponsor your travel for you. And also, it helps you with career opportunities and money. After you graduate with a PhD, there is a minimum level of money that you can be paid with. You cannot be paid with any mediocre amount of money if you have a PhD. And you can actually make money, though people do complain, people in the sciences do not really get money, but I think it depends on how you position yourself. If you're a research scientist and you are working with an industry that produces what, like, makes product from what the kind of research that you do, then you expect to make a lot of money and also career opportunities. Talking about career opportunities, I would love to mention that PhD doesn't mean you should become a scientist. You can actually work in industry, you can go into policy, you can do a whole lot of good, you can undertake a different career path. You can be a writer for science, you can go into law, because when it comes to, let's say, the patent issues and all, if the person doesn't know much more about science, the person cannot judge the situation. So actually, PhD gives you a brighter chance to actually explore different forms of areas. And quickly, what I will speak about is factors that you need to consider when selecting schools and requirements. So some of these factors, first of all, is that you would have to consider the costs that is involved in going to school there. So for example, if you want to go to a school like MIT, Harvard, Stanford, or Yale, which is not funded, that would be very crazy, because for Stanford, for instance, or let's say University of California, San Francisco, they are located in California from its name. And California is one of the places with the highest cost of living when it comes to living standards within the states. So a thing that can cost $2 in the East Coast can cost about $6 in California. And I can tell you that my health insurance fee is about $6,000. Is actually someone's stipend for the whole year. So you want to look at the cost. But talking about the cost, the major thing that you need to understand is that apply to a program that is funded. It's a simple rule that I will leave you with, even if you don't remember anything. When you are selecting the school, this should be your number one important factor that you are looking at, irrespective of the school or the program. The thing is the program funded? Are you supposed to pay for anything? If you're supposed to pay for something, I don't know about your finances, but for me, I don't have a CD to pay for any dime that the school will demand of me. So I would entreat you that you apply to programs that comes with funding, and most importantly, PhD programs are likely to come with funding as compared to master's program. That is my little observation that I've made. So you want to apply to programs that are funded. And talking about funding, funding comes in so many forms. You can have a fellowship or you can have an assistantship. So I am graced to be on a fellowship at Stanford because the Stanford program that I am in gives a graduate fellowship. When I talk about fellowship is like scholarship. So it's like we are paying you to study and make sure you graduate and do well and just leave. And talking of assistantship is where you are going to act as a TA to a lecturer or a research assistant whilst you are in school, and that is where you get your funding from. And so you want to apply to schools. Don't apply to a school that will tell you that after admission, they will consider what kind of funding. It is going to be tough because you can get into such a school, and at the end of the day, if you don't get funding, you are just as equal as someone who didn't apply at all. So I don't want a situation whereby I'll speak to someone said, oh, I got into this school, but I didn't get funding. And it's like you've wasted your time, you've wasted your commender's time, and you've wasted so many things. So, and also people consider the rank. I don't think you should consider rank, especially when you are in the sciences, because you can get into Stanford and at the end of the day end up as a postdoc in Iowa State or even University of Ghana. Look at some of us. I wouldn't want to belittle University of Ghana, but if you want to compare University of Ghana to Stanford, they are very incomparable, you understand? But for me, as an individual, to be able to leave University of Ghana to Stanford, it tells you that anybody can move from anywhere to it, especially within the sciences, you get it. So if you are looking at the rank, I don't think it's super important. But if I were you, I would just categorize my schools into top tier, middle tier, and low tier. If I say, when you look at the rank, maybe you can choose 2 schools or 3 schools from first 20 or first 30 best programs and schools, depending on the website that you are looking at, whether you are looking at QS ranking or higher times ranking. And also I would focus majority of my schools in the middle tier schools. So for me, within the schools that you saw, I felt Purdue University and a couple of other schools, Rochester University, were actually very good schools, because it doesn't matter whether you are in Stanford or you are in Iowa State. Somebody will be in Iowa State and publish into Nature, and can be in Stanford and maybe you'll just be publishing into a low profile journal. So it doesn't matter. And going forward, you can end up anywhere. You can go and do your postdoc in Harvard after moving from Iowa. It depends on what you are doing and where your future trajectory is leading you towards. But if you talk about ranking, I'll just make sure I spread my schools across different ranks: lower tier schools, middle tier schools, and top schools. Actually, everybody will be proud. If you should get into Harvard, I'll be so proud, because nobody, maybe perhaps from the department, have moved to Harvard, MIT. So it will be a wonderful achievement if you should get into those areas. But I wouldn't focus on ranking too much, and I would also not say, because this is MIT, I would take my time to write their essays well. And when it comes to a school like Iowa State or Purdue, I will just write a mediocre essay. You may never know which school is going to call you for an intake or which school you might have gotten into. So you want to make sure you balance each and everything. Please, I think anybody can stop me, like just unmute and stop me if perhaps I'm moving too fast or you can't hear me, or there is any technical challenges as we move on. Or perhaps you can text Frank to also alert me if there are any issues with the conversation we are having. And also you want to look at the location. The location to me is also not so important, because I believe that we have our people in so many places. For example, I'm going to the West Coast, and most of our people actually are in the East Coast when it comes to the US. And it doesn't matter, but then they claim that the West Coast weather is almost like what we have here in Africa. So if you're afraid of weather, then you want to consider schools around Arizona, California, and those. But if you want to go to MIT and Co., which are in the East Coast, then you should be prepared to have so many very cold weather conditions during your program. And when you talk about format and duration, I think for a PhD and master's program, it depends on you. So basically, masters are really restricted to a particular duration, but PhD depends on the supervisor that you have and when he thinks you are okay to graduate or you have maximum knowledge to graduate from your program. And you also want to look out for the faculty and the curriculum of the program. You want to do a program that you like. So if, fortunately for us, we are doing biochem, and biochemistry is a very broad field. You can actually do so many. So talking about Stanford, for instance, Stanford has the biosciences program, and under it we have 14 different departments. So you and I might be applying. So you and I might be applying to Stanford, but we might be applying to different departments, and that doesn't mean that we are applying to the same school, same program. It's actually the same school, but different program. So within the 14 department like this, we have the cell biology department can apply to cell biology program, a biochemistry program, a molecular biology program. We have the biomedical informatics, those interested in bioinformatics. We also, Stanford also has an immunology program, microbiology program, neurosciences. So you see, the programs are just there. And for side schools, those of the big schools, most of the times, their program is an umbrella program. So talking about program, you don't even have a worry there. I was admitted to the biochemistry program, but I'm not restricted to do biochemistry or even work with a biochemistry professor. I can decide to work with anybody within the biosciences, whether it's neuroscience that I'm interested in, I can easily. And even when you look at the biochemistry faculty, you can see that their research is diverse. Someone is working on viruses and is under biochemistry, someone is working. So I wouldn't mind, especially if you want to do biomedical science research, I wouldn't be bothered also at this stage, though if you have a particular interest and you said you want to do genetics, then you want to go for it. But I wouldn't mind like exploring and looking at being flexible with the programs that I am choosing to apply. And you also want to look at potential faculties that you may want to work with. If you don't find any faculty within a school that you would like to work with based on what a person does, then there is no need applying to such a school because you will not have anybody to work with. We also want to look at the application costs. So talking about application costs, initially I would have told you that yes, if you don't have money like myself, you want to apply to programs that have no application cost or their application fee is very low. If you're going to look at application fee, I'm sure majority of us will not apply to a school like Stanford because their application fee is very crazy. It's as high as $125. And you don't want to spend that money on a school that's like people think you are not even going to get in at the end of the day. But one thing that I learned painfully, but which will help future generations, is you should always reach out to the program directors or the secretaries or whoever that are coordinating the admission process to ask if you can get what we call an application fee waiver to any school that you want to apply. If you don't get and the fee is high, then you now have to think of whether you want to drop that school or not, depending on your financial stance. But don't look at a school and look at its application fee and just ignore such a school. They might have waivers on their website. So I learned this at the hard way that the Stanford program like this have application fee waiver, which you can easily apply. You just write a diversity essay and hopefully they are going to give you the waiver. Even the ones that you will not see on their website, like I said, try and email the professors or whoever the program director is to find out if there's a possibility to get a waiver. Sometimes there are waivers that are hidden. You will not know unless you ask. And like I said, reaching out is key. Reaching out is key. So talking about reaching out, I'll talk about how to reach out soon. But when I'm done with factors for selecting the school. So the application costs, which shouldn't deter you because you can easily get a waiver by searching through their website or asking the program directors for it. I've already spoken about funding and support. So please again, don't apply to a school that is not funded. And you can see the funding when you are looking out for the program on their website. You go to financial aid, you see that, okay, graduate students are typically given a stipend. Sometimes they even state the amount of money that they give. So some of the schools that I had, some were going to give me $24,000, some were going to give $27,000 a year, $30,000, and one particular school was giving me $45,000 a year. And all these things shouldn't also sway, but sometimes it's the cost of living in the state that determines how much money is given to the students and also the standard of the school. Obviously, you don't expect a school like Purdue to give the same amount of money as compared to Harvard giving their student money. They have money more than them, so eventually they're going to gain more. So talking about requirements, I think these are the key things that I have mentioned. So sorry, talking about factors. So requirements, which I will be delving on into details, that is where the statement, what we call statement of purpose comes in. So statement of purpose is very important. Maybe you've not heard about it. I'll talk briefly about it. And I think Frank also spoke about CV. So CV depends. Some schools do not require you to write a CV, but other schools require you to write a CV. And you need your academic qualification. So talking of academic qualification, what I just want to talk about is GPA. So at this stage, I don't know if it's too late for some of us, because perhaps we look at our GPA and we think it's not so good, but I just want to encourage you. Level 400 is also doubly weighted for University of Ghana, and you want to try as much as possible to end on a high. So for me, I set up a target to get 4.0. It didn't work. When I got my first B, I thought I could get 3.97. It didn't work. It just came down to a point which I will not disclose. But what I mean, when you set higher targets, even if things do not work, at least you end up some. But if you set a lower target for yourself and it's not working, then you are doomed. So if I want to get up, I wouldn't set 3.0 for as my target. I'll set let's say 3.5. But getting to level 400, I'm sure a lot of good has been done, or a lot of damage has been done. But you can actually try hard to, if you need help with how to calculate GPA and know what kind of grades do I need to make, those things are very important, which will guide you to know. But basically, I would say that at West, you should get a 3.0 as your academic qualification. And once you get a 3.0, you are eligible to apply for any master's or PhD program, especially within the US. I'm biased towards the US because that is where I had most of my applications. So I think I know even much more about US application compared to what BEP application and perhaps UK. Perhaps we could also speak to people who have applied to UK schools to know their view. But the US system requires that you have 3.0. Only very few schools accept students with less than 3.0. And talking about 3.0, that doesn't mean if you have 3.2 now, you say, well, they said I need 3.0, so it's okay. You want to fight to make yourself as competitive as possible. So let's assume all things being equal in other requirements, and you and somebody GPA differentiates you. Obviously, you expect that they will pick that person over you, but though that shouldn't deter you, because I actually remember that somebody who didn't get into Stanford actually was part of the interview. He told me his GPA, and his GPA was 0.1 more than mine. So at the end of the day, if I got in and he didn't get in, that should tell you that the admission process is a holistic thing. So in as much as I'm entreating us to get a high GPA, I just want you to also note that you shouldn't let the GPA that you get at the end of the day also deter you from actually applying to a school. So talking about requirements, I was talking about academic qualification. I just mentioned statement of purpose and CV, which I'll talk about the statement of purpose and CV briefly. But moving forward, I want to talk about other requirements. So the last requirement, which is very important, is what we call the letters of recommendation. Actually, some schools most schools require you to have at least 3 letters of recommendation when you are applying. So with these 3 letters of recommendation, what you want to do is that you want lecturers who actually know you, and you can start building a relationship now. I think it's good to have a relationship with a lecturer before you actually go to such a person to request for a recommendation letter, instead of just waiting on and banging on the person's door, and all of a sudden the person doesn't really know you and you say you want a recommendation. Mostly they are going to deny you one, and even if they accept, sometimes they don't know you. I don't know what they are going to write. They just say he's good, he's hardworking. Those are mediocre and generic letters of recommendation. You don't need that. You want someone who actually knows you to speak very important things about you. Speak about the fact that you can be a very competitive candidate for the program. So, and the letters of recommendation, mind you, also affect the number of schools that you want to apply. Because imagine if you know only 3 lecturers who are willing to write recommendations to only 3 schools, then that means that you can only apply to 3 schools. But if you have more faculty members recommending you, then you have the chance to add more and more schools. So for me, one advantage that I had was I knew most of the lecturers in your department, and I was able to get, though someone decided not to recommend me, I won't disclose it, but still I was able to get a higher number of recommenders for the number of schools that I showed you on the first slide. So the number of recommenders that you have will also play a key role in the number of schools that you want to apply to. And it's also good to have more, so that in the case if there is disappointment at one point, then you will not be deterred. So if you have 4 people and someone is deciding not to write after the person agreed, then you can easily change that person with the 4th lecturer to write the recommendation for you. So Basically, the most important things are your qualification, research experience, which I know you have from your project, and all your intentions. Please note everything that you've done, every research that you've done. Sometimes I see most of you having internship, but I don't know what is going on in the internship. You are just like following what they are telling you to do. You need to know the topic of who you are working under, because that is the project you are doing. Even if you are fetching water for the person, you are fetching water to do this so and so project. So you want to know those things so that you can talk about stuff that you've done in when they ask you to talk about your research. So because you want to show motivation for research, and you don't want to start from the fact that your undergraduate project, this is what you did. Undergraduate project is a requirement. So everybody knows you want to do an undergraduate project. But you say maybe you did internship and you're working on this, blah, 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 then you just skip to talk about more of your undergraduate project. Then it shows you have diverse experience with research. So research experience and your academic qualification is important, and your letters of recommendation. So you want to start now, and for now you just want to talk to lecturers. You can even go and speak to lecturers about the fact that you just want to talk to them, like you came to say hi. Sometimes it's very important. People want to like recommend people that they know, and going forward, you can even intentionally say, oh, like maybe doc, I do like, what's your opinion about schooling in the States? Though you've made your mind, you want to go there. What's your opinion about this? So that initially, like there is an initiation of conversation that, oh, this is what you want to do later on. So when the time comes and you want to seek a recommendation, it's like the person actually should know that you will be coming to him some way, somehow, someday for this recommendation. Unlike you just bump one into a lecturer and expect that the person writes a recommendation for you. So that is it. And with the CV is also important. The CV, anything on the CV should let you be a competitive applicant. You want to write something that makes you look like a competitive applicant and nothing else, and something that should be unique. Something that is not generic, anything unique. So for example, if you want to show some leadership qualities on your CV, you don't need to be a GAPSA vice president to show something. You can even be a GAPSA welfare member, but how you put your position as a GAPSA welfare member can actually communicate better than even someone who was a GAPSA president that doesn't know how to draft a CV. So CV in itself is also a skill. And I guess I've seen some stuff in the chat. I would be reading them soon. I'll try to answer the questions that I was saying. So that is it. So the statement of purpose and CV, I'll be talking a little about it. And we also have something we call diversity essay. So the diversity essay is who you are, your cultural background, what makes you unique. When we talk about diversity, we are talking about your age, your sex, your color, and everything. So you want to say something that makes you unique and catchy, and how that your uniqueness is going to help the biodiversity, especially what I will entreat most of you to apply as much as you can. And I believe that you are going to get in, especially once you guys are blacks like myself, and even more for the ladies, because they are complaining signs that ladies have low number, and also schools are intentionally trying to bring in ladies each and every time. Yes, schools are trying to do that just to compensate the ladies one way or the other. And also for the blacks, especially after George Floyd's issue, some schools want to portray that they are not racist and all that. So I know for the next 2 years, whether through merit or intentionally, blacks are going to get advantage with admission. So I can tell you about my cohort. We are 5 in my department, and there are 4 ladies and only one single guy in the department that I have joined for my cohort. So that is it with the requirements. And lastly, I would entreat us not to apply to the same school, same program. There are a lot of schools, there are a lot of programs. Even within the same school, there are diverse programs. Once you apply to the same school, same program, you've created an internal competition already among yourself. So it's obvious that the best that will happen is that only one of you is going to get in. I mean, you don't expect a school in the state like MIT to choose 2 people from nowhere else but Africa, nowhere else, Ghana, same department into their program. It will never, like, it's highly impossible. I wouldn't say it can't happen, because who knows, but it's highly impossible it's highly not like it's highly unlikely for such an incident to happen. So you want to spread your own, because it makes you unique. For example, if they are reading application, they want to say, okay, so there's this Ghanaian applicant, and that makes you very unique in the application. application pool. But if you are applying to the same schools, I mean, it neutralizes. And if you are not careful, what will happen is that if you guys have same recommenders and these recommenders are lazy, they might try the same things for both of you, and it will be detected and realize that there is some fishiness or fake information about that particular applicant. So I wouldn't want to apply to the same school with other people who are applying. So that is that, and I will delve into more with I'll delve into more with the questions. So I think I mentioned this already, talking about academic qualification, research experience, CV, letters of recommendation. Oh, I missed one particular thing, that is the standardized testing. So talking about standardized testing, I've stopped sharing screen. So talking about standardized testing, what I just want you guys to notice that most of the time, one exams that you need is the GRE. That is most of the times. But even with a GRE, there are so many programs, so many schools that don't require the GRE. So if you are afraid of math and English and you don't want to write the GRE, just go for schools that do not require the GRE. And fortunately for those who don't want to write GRE, because of COVID and all that, most schools are waiving their GRE requirements, meaning that they do not accept the GRE now. So you have an opportunity to apply to such schools even without writing the GRE. I actually got into the Purdue biochemistry program without my GRE score. So somebody will ask me, Kamna, did you write the GRE? And I don't know how to answer. I wrote the GRE, but I don't want you to feel because of the GRE I got into this school or that school, unless you ask me whether I even sent a score to this particular school or that particular school. So the GRE is one of the requirements for some schools and some programs, but it's not all programs that are required. So if you want to write the GRE, write it and do well and apply to schools that take it. If you don't want to write it, to focus on schools that do not require the GRE. But remind you, if majority of the people are going to apply to schools with very flexible requirements. But if you are not taking GRE, people who wrote the GRE, as well as people who don't want to write the GRE, are going to apply there. So eventually there will be more competition there. And I just don't want you to belittle yourself to any school. You can get into any school, and any school can actually also bounce you, unfortunately. So you just want to make your application unique and apply to as many schools from top to lower tier schools as possible. So this is just a brief. I spoke about why graduate school and what are the things you need to have before applying to graduate school. I spoke about this. You need your statement of purpose. And how is the statement of purpose different from personal statement? How do you write a competitive SOP and a personal statement? So I would wish that perhaps even as I have time or you have time, we can still interact sometime later to delve more into what we call the statement of purpose. Since we have just 1 hour, I'll actually try to speak a lot about CV alone, statement of purpose alone, preparing for GRE alone, going to lecturers for recommendation alone. Today, I just wanted you to have a brief overview of what is happening. And so statement of purpose is who are you, what have you done, and what you want to do, and why you want to come to our school. Basically, that is the statement of purpose. Some schools interchange statement of purpose with personal statements, and in that case, I would say they are the same. But you have certain programs that will tell you to write a statement of purpose and a personal statement. So the statement of purpose really dwells more about the program, what you've done and why you want to enter into that program. I'm sorry if you are hearing any noise. I think there is some music going on behind me. But when it comes to the personal statement actually talks about yourself and like who you are. It's more like the diversity essay. So the personal statement, who you are and where you see yourself, what you've done, and where you see yourself. The statement of purpose is also similar. The statement of purpose, you try to talk more about academic and research experiences. I wouldn't speak much. So I remember with my statement of purpose, the trajectory that I just talk about myself. Usually you want a catchy introduction. I'm tempted to go into statement of purpose, but I wouldn't, just to save time. We'll talk into details about statement of purpose, some time to come. But you want a catchy introduction. You talk about, you introduce yourself, you speak of what you've done undergrad, what you've learned, and how that has impacted you. I was basically talk about my project work and what I found. And I'll move on to, usually I was a research assistant and a TA whilst I was applying. So I'll move on to talk about that. And I also try to chip in one or two things that I think makes me unique. I think I'm very well prepared for biomedical science because I'm multitasking, and I can speak of the fact that I was a research assistant, a TA, and at the same time I wrote GRE to apply. Back in the days, I remember I was doing my project work and I was a GAPSA vice president as well, in as much as I was also working towards my academic graduation. So let's, usually when you write anything, statement, any essay, one thing I will want you to remember is try to make sure that your story speaks for you. You don't want to, I don't want to say I'm hardworking. For example, if I tell you that I was able to do, take a position, and at the same time I was doing my project and I had, let's say, 3.6. It shows I'm hardworking. I don't need to tell you that I'm hardworking, blah, blah, blah. So what I want you to notice that stories, actually, your story define who you are more than just stating things. It also applies on your CV. Everybody is saying hardworking, they are doing taxing. Let stories do that for you. And so that is the statement of purpose. We'll talk more into it. So statement of purpose, anything that makes you unique, don't put it on your CV or statement of purpose. And you want to write things that are important and interesting. But if you don't have space, you want to remove the interesting things out that are not important. Just ask yourself, is this important or not? So perhaps I want to say I play football in my statement. Does it make me unique? Or what you want to ask yourself if such a thing makes you unique. Or for example, if you're applying to a biochemistry program and you say you read biochemistry somewhere by your undergrad, I think it's an important statement because it shows that you've actually done biochemistry and you want to further in it. So basically, I just want to wrap up with the statement of purpose thing. We can talk in-depthly on statement of purpose later. And I also saw writing a professional email to seek for potential advisor or supervisor. So technically, most schools in the US do not require you to seek for a supervisor, but you still want to reach out. So whatever be the case, most of the times you want to say, dear Professor, assuming Frank is a professor, you want to say, dear Professor Frank Obeng, my name is this, and I have my undergraduate degree, so and so, and I plan on applying to this program. Personally, I'll just go to the professor's website, look at what he's doing. I don't need to read what he has done into details. I read a couple of things on your website and I'm interested in so and so. I just mentioned the headline of what he does. And I am happy to chat if you are available. I wouldn't want them because most of the programs are umbrella programs. That means you don't need a supervisor before you get into those programs. There are only few programs. So an umbrella program means the admission is done holistically. You don't need to have a supervisor. It's when you come in, then you choose your supervisor because in US, they give you the chance to explore. It's not like work that you come and somebody takes you by force into their lab. You have a chance to explore in 3 labs of your own choice. Nobody gives you the 3 labs. Go here, or go there. You choose 3 labs that you want to work in for each quarter, and after the first year, depending on your communication with any of them, you decide to choose your final supervisor. So I wish I could project my screen, but then I guess so basically what I would do, what I did, because I wasn't looking for a supervisor, is my name blah, blah. I graduated at the University of Ghana in biochemistry, cell and molecular biology. I am interested in working on blah, blah, blah. And I read I read your research on your website and I'm interested and I'm happy to work with you if given the chance to, or I'm admitted to this program. And I humbly request for any advice throughout my application and find attached. Perhaps if you have a very good GPA, you can say you find attach your transcript, but it's not important. But you see these people, so what I'll do is I'll just take this generic message. I can message about 10 faculty members in the same school. Some will not respond, some will respond. You may never know. I got a Stanford waiver through some of these messages. I wasn't even asking for a waiver. So what I realized is that each response that came, though most were generic, some of them have a vital information in that will help you in your application. So I think we don't have much time. And writing a competitive CV, I'll skip this, but basically, CV is what you've done. So for an application, you want to talk about your research experiences, that you want to list each and every one of them. You want to talk about your education, and you also want to talk about any conferences that you've attended or internships that you've done, any awards that you might have received. And most importantly, people forget, people, when they're looking for diversity, they want to look for somebody that will join their association or groups in the school. So you want to look out for volunteering activities. Some of you do volunteering a lot, but I don't even know that what you are doing is volunteering. So, like for example, if you are doing a festival and you want to partake in it, it's a volunteering work, and you're actually volunteering for something in your on your CV. That makes you. And how to search for your university of choice? You can actually biochemistry. What I'll just do is Google biochemistry graduate schools within the state. So biochemistry graduate schools within the state, you have a lot of them. If you want to do genetics school, or even by ranking, then you start to do them one by one. So you go through the school and you check for all those factors that I listed and requirements. So you'll be searching for how much applications, is it free? How many recommendation letters? Is the program funded? You want to check all those. So it's a tedious work sometimes, right? And it is worth it. But fortunately for you guys, I can send you a PDF to start with if the time comes for you. And also schools that perhaps your seniors have gotten into, like my seniors and some of us, that could also be a good starting point in choosing school. But I don't want you guys to be applying to the same school. There are a lot of schools. If someone is applying to Stanford, you can apply to Harvard, you can apply to MIT, Yale, whatever. There are so many schools out there. And how many applications should one put in? And what's the rate of having a successful application with a full or partial scholarship? Before you apply to the program, make sure it's funded. So there is no like case of we talking about how to get scholarship with the program. So when the program is funded, once you hear that you have admission, you know you have funding. That is all. And how many applications are spoken about it? Details on getting a visa. I don't think we should talk much about visa now, but for visa, what basically happens is that your school will send you some documents and you use it to apply. And when you are going for interview, all that you need to notice that make sure you are not going to say anything that shows that you will not come back. And one thing that they used to also bounce over is the fact that if they know you cannot fund yourself, that is why you need a program that is funded. It is very difficult if somebody's paying for you for that program. You have to justify if the person can actually pay. So once you're in a funded program, and I mean, if you've gotten a school that paid you and they said it's fellowship or assistantship, I don't think they'll be asking you much questions about how you are going to fund yourself. It is there. You just tell them the program is funded and you are free to go. Research experience as a requisite for graduate school. Yes, it is, but it shouldn't, like, it's not a major requisite. Like I said, I don't think I have any good research experience, to be frank, if you ask me. Actually, I work in a lab where my supervisor thought I didn't really do anything, but I'm at Stanford, you understand? So I just think that you should try. You guys are not coming to your final year project. If you want to go into graduate school, try and be in an academic environment. You can go to Noguchi, work paper, or wherever, hospital, or anything research-wise that you can talk about for your application. And when is the right time to apply to graduate school? Okay, so for most schools in the States, actually have a deadline on December 1st. So if you want to apply to schools, I would say you want to start right after your graduation. I mean, people want to go and chill after graduation and all that. So, it's a tedious, so even to know the kind of schools you want to apply to and all that can take weeks. Unless you just want to steal schools from somebody with the information that this school is free, so you want to apply. If you don't take care, you guys will be applying to same school. But there are a lot of, so this year I just did a program for the final years, and I'm so amazed. Some of them found so many different schools that are free to apply. Some of them go with schools that I've not heard of. So it's good when you also search for more schools, you can actually help. You can add to the list and help the future generations to have a lot of schools to apply to, depending on their choice. And since GRE is optional lately, with a bad GPA, should I try? Yes, if your school requires the GRE and your GPA is not good, I think the GRE can compensate for your GPA, and you can actually make a story out of it if you do well. And I would say you need to write the GRE at least on paper at least 3 weeks before the deadline of the school so that your results can get to the school. But my recommendation is to write at least a month or 6 weeks before the deadline. And for me, if I'm submitting application, I'll make sure I submit my application at least a month. Worst case, if I'm late, I'll submit it 2 weeks before the deadline. You may never know. Some schools can actually start reviewing applications before their deadline. And imagine if they have 1,000 applications and they want just 6 or 10 people, and they've reviewed first 500 and they think they have 20 people. Do you think they are going to go on more people? We can, like, let's just be frank with ourselves and put ourselves in their shoe. They are just going to end up there. So that is what I think. You want to apply early. So you should start your application worst case by August if you are looking for the next admission cycle. Because most deadlines are on 1st December, though some are in January, some March and all that. But especially the top schools, most of them are 1st December. So that should guide you to know when to start. So you want to start as soon as you graduate. If you want to write GRE, you can be preparing for GRE now, and even most of your essays or whatever now, and building relationship with lecturers and all that. How do I find application waivers on websites when they're in PDFs or secretly hidden? I think I spoke about it. Reach out to the people and you can do that. And when applying to school, should your SOP state explicitly your project works? Yes, you need to talk about your project work, but I just need to summarize. So I would say, so I did my undergraduate thesis with maybe Dr. Saki, and mind you, this, when you say doctor, it doesn't mean here when someone's a professor, I want to know is a professor. Most of them are professors because when they start as even the doctors that we know, they call them assistant professors. So those doctor professor thing doesn't really change anything with the state. And yeah, and so yeah, so with your project, so I work with, so in my SOP, I'll say, I worked under the supervision of maybe Dr. Saki on the project, characterizing blah, 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 where I showed that you want to say something of what we found. You just don't want to list the topic and leave it there, where I showed blah, 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 blah happening. So just my conclusion of my project. Some of them can even be interested. They'll be asking you all this in an interview when you are called. That reminds me, you also have interviews for schools after you've been selected from the application pool. Interview session later on. We could have a whole session on it. You understand what you need to know before your interview. Can you use the same application for different schools? Why not? The statement of purpose, you cannot write different statements of purpose for different schools. It's the same statement of purpose, but you have to read the instructions that they have. So maybe this school will say, talk more about your academic achievement. Then you know that, okay, let me look through my statement of purpose. Where's my academic achievement? Then you expand on it more. But you have a draft, then you build on. But just make sure you read the specific instruction. Some schools will not let you write statement of purpose. So I remember Washington University in St. Louis, they made me write 2 different essays, and I didn't know what they wanted. But I just drafted those 2 essays for my statement of purpose. So one of them was focusing on research, the other was focusing on academics, blah, blah, blah. I don't really recall, but these are some of the things. Is it a constant that you would get scholarship upon admission, and how do you secure a traveling visa as a constant upon I think it falls down back to the fact that I said you should apply to schools that are funded, right? If you apply to schools that are funded, then I think this person's question will be answered that it's a constant that you have funding, right? So all my schools were funded. One of them was, like I told you, it came with free tuition waiver. Some of them even comes with free health insurance, though some of them don't give health insurance and you have to pay. So for my schools that I had, some were giving even $24K, 26, 30, and 45,000 K. So you can imagine, even if you have 24K, trust me, if you're not coming from a well-to-do home, I believe that schooling in itself, you see, in Ghana, when they talk about school, they just see school as going to SHS. Like when you say you are going to do your PhD, they think you don't have life. And it's funny, most of the people in the States have boyfriends, girlfriends, or are married, and sometimes it even pisses me off when we are talking. They always want to talk about their boyfriend. Starting with science, they'll say, okay, so my boyfriend went to the hospital to do blah, blah, blah. Like, they are just free-spirited people. And some of them are married and they are and all that. I don't want anything to deter you from pursuing a PhD, especially the ladies who may want to marry. If you want to marry, you can still marry and do a PhD. But most importantly, trust me, if you should get a program in the States and you are not from a well-to-do house, I at least you can take care of yourself without bothering your parents. And I can say that for a fact that at this stage of my life, I do not need anything from my parents. And I don't think I would have gotten this opportunity perhaps if I was here looking for a job, or perhaps even coming to pursue work babe, because I'm not trying to tell work babe. So for those who may not have 3.0, my advice is just try and secure a master's program here in Ghana. And in your master's program, you will definitely do well. As biochemistry student, I trust that you do well, you do great. You get, because it's just 1 year. So the GPA that you have ended. If it's 4.0, you are done. Then you use that to apply for PhD outside. I want to leave it past our time. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody must have. And I just want to note that the time that was scheduled is up, though I'm available to answer any questions anybody can have. Sorry, might have. So thank you very much. And if there are anything that I missed, you can ask me and we could talk more about it. So I just want to know if maybe perhaps you have something else to do, you could leave the call, I guess, or but then I'm happy to answer any question that you guys have. Frank.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Nyami. And we are very grateful for such a wonderful presentation. I think I've received some questions that I'll quickly read out to you so that you help us with that. But before I go to those questions, I'd like to touch on the waiver. It is very important. Recently, I would like to have or pursue an associate degree with a university in the United States, but I saw that their application fee was scaring me. And so what I did was that I wrote to my course advisor, and then I didn't even know there was a waiver. And then he just sent me some message that I should send them some documents and that they are on the process of granting me a waiver. So writing to the university or any person at the university who has been assigned to you as an advisor is very important. You may get the waiver and then you'll be able to apply for the school without paying anything. So the first question that came was that, can you do a PhD in clinical biochemistry? That was the first question.
Yeah, exactly. You can do a PhD in any related program. You can even go and do a PhD in business. That is to answer the question. But then, if you want to go into clinical biochemistry or any, fortunately for you guys, clinical biochemistry is related to biochemistry, and you actually did a course in clinical biochemistry. That shouldn't be a problem. But if you are going into a program, let me say neuroscience, because I also did the same biochemistry you are doing. We actually didn't do anything related to neurosciences. We didn't, but it depends on your story. So now, meaning that your story that you are making should be very unique to tell the admission board why you've done biochemistry and you want to do neuroscience. So that is it. So if you can craft a unique story to explain why you want to do that program, then I think you are good to apply to any program that you want to apply to.
That's great. Thank you very much. And then I don't know whether Becky, the essay question, are you okay with that? I think he threw more light on that. She was asking what the essay entails. Okay, so she's okay with that. She's okay with the answer, so we can move on with that.
Sorry, are you guys chatting on the page? Because I can't see anything here.
I think she's chatting me privately. That is how you can see.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And then about the 1 year masters, I think what you were implying to say was that in the masters you have 1 year academic work and then 1 year research work, right?
Yeah, so for most master's program ranges from 1 year to mostly 2 years, but in some programs, some master's programs are 3 years. But what I wanted to say is that if you are doing a master's program, at most, I think you will do between 6 months academic work to 1 year academic work. Like WACPIP, you'll be doing 1 year academic coursework, and you should do well, you can do well, you can do it. For me, I feel if you can get 2.0, 2.5 in biochemistry department, at WACPIP, you should get 3.5 for masters. You are going to generate that, and that can help you apply for PhD with a GPA of above 3.0 if you are targeting the US schools.
Okay, So I think, Becky, are you okay with that with regards to the masters? All right. So someone is also asking, what is the difference between MPhil and masters? So Master of Science and then Master of Philosophy. What's the difference?
Okay, so master of philosophy actually, like, it's just like doctor of philosophy. It's more research inclined compared to science. So you can have the master of science where you just go to class and at the end of the year you are done with the program. Perhaps maybe you write an essay or something and so that is master of science. So master of science is not really research inclined, but if you are doing MPhil, then you are rest assured that you have to do a project work. But for Master of Science, it depends. But for MPhil, you do a project or a thesis work before you're able to graduate from the program.
All right. Thank you very much. I think that was clear enough for the person to understand. So we still have some time. If you have any question, please you can ask. If there are no questions, then we shall have a little announcement.
Yeah, so I think if anybody has a question, they could just unmute themselves, right, and just speak. Perhaps that would be more flexible. They can actually ask the question. So
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good
Hello.
evening, Mary.
Please, Mary here. Please, I want to know the difference between expression of interest, like EOI, and then statement of purpose. I
oh
don't know if
wow,
you get me.
yeah, as expression of interest, if I got you right. Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
like I told you, okay, most schools, every school and how they create their different forms of essays. So when someone says statement of purpose, it's like, why are you in this program? Who are you? And like, why this statement of purpose? And expression of interest is basically, if I recall, I didn't meet any school that was asking me of expression of interest. But expression of interest is slightly related to also statement of purpose. It's about why are you interested in that particular program? And I think this should be more personal. It's kind of more personal. Perhaps, probably, I had a family member who lost his life through malaria, and I really want to go into malaria research. It's something that I'm trying to express interest in a research field or a program based on. And most of the time, it's about reaching out to. There are some programs I wouldn't encourage you to apply. Those that will tell you to find a faculty or a supervisor before you apply. I know one guy who was interviewed at Toronto in Canada, and at the end of the day, they said he's done well, he should look for a supervisor, so he has admission, and he never got a supervisor, and that was the end of his application process. So I will look more into expression of interest. I'm not sure it's an essay. Yes, it's not an essay, but a statement of purpose is a very required essay that no one is going to miss, which you are supposed to write, or the personal statement. Thank you.
Okay, Becky, can you ask your question? Okay, let me ask for her. Does WAGB have scholarship opportunities? Pamina.
Okay, so unfortunately, I'm not in WAC, but I can answer that question. So what I know with WAC is that in your second year, you are more or less guaranteed funding, right? And they give you a stipend. I think they give $100 or so, $150 per month. So you can imagine a state giving you $2,000 a month or even $4,000 a month, and what giving you $150 as a graduate master's student. But that is what they give. And I think in Ghana, to you, maybe it might be good money, because if 150, then you have about 1,000, is it? 1,000 Ghana closely or something. So they offer scholarship, and I think it's for everybody. Once you are in the program, you have the stipend. and your project work is also funded through your supervisor. But it's the first year that I think not everybody gets funding in the first year. So sometimes you need to pay your school fees yourself or something of that sort. But WACBIP has funding. That is why it's WACBIP. Other than that, there will be no WACBIP. It will just be the department offering a master's program. So WACBIP is the center through which the funding is provided to students attending various programs in the department.
All right. There is another question here that I would like to. The person says I should ask for him. Please, if you do an MPhil of 2 years, will your PhD too be 4 years?
Sorry, Frank, I missed the first line.
Please, if you do an MPhil of 2 years, will your PhD too be 4 years?
Yeah, so that is why I advise that if you have a dream of doing a PhD, especially in the States, just go for a straight PhD. Because if you've even done 3 different masters and you want to do a PhD, we can't say you've done 3 masters, so come and do a PhD for 2 years. Unless the school itself we have what we call fast track PhD. So there are some programs that you go in as a master's, and after 1 year, they just let you do a PhD in addition, let's say for 4 or 5 years. But within the US, the minimum number of years to do a PhD, I guess, is 4 years. It's very rare occasion someone will do a PhD in 3 years. So the minimum is 4, and some even take 6 years, and the average is usually 5 years. And like within the bioscience, the program that I'm in, we have some that are coming with masters, some undergrad. And mind, even in the States, it's not like Ghana because we do service. In the States, those they apply whilst they are in level 400. It's just like we from high school applying to university. They apply from their final year. So if you want to do PhD, you should guess. And so the simple answer is that the master that you've done from somewhere else doesn't shorten your number of years in a PhD program.
Okay. All right. That is great. And then there is another question here. Let me read it out. Then probably we may call it a day. So there is a question here that, please, I want to know that from the process of application to admission, let's say for a founded program, I want to know the part of the process where it's mandatory that I use some personal money, non-founded money, be it the flight process or accommodation. I want to know if I need to secure some money on my own to pull through. So I think the person is trying to say whether the funding covers everything or it doesn't cover everything. There are some part that you need to pay with your money.
Okay, thanks for the question, whoever asked. So basically what I want to say is that if you are going to the States, I believe the funding may cover everything or might not cover everything. But at the end of the day, I don't see you putting your own money into it. Because I'm speaking from example, because I remember Teresa spoke to me about Augusta University, and when she's going to school for the first time, it's like she had to pay for accommodation as high as $6,000. And she took that money from someone. Do you get it? And paid for that accommodation for that semester or quarter or whatever. But in this case, the reason why she had to take the money from somebody is because she doesn't have like her 5 months money that the school is going to provide her with. So in that case, if she starts school within 1 or 2 or 3 months, she can easily get that money back to whoever and still get extra money too. So I would say that it might not cover everything, but at the end of the day, what they are going to give you should be enough if you can manage money well to cater for all those expenses. So yes, you can talk about the fact that you pay for flights and all that, but then for some schools, actually I am graced to tell you that the school that I'm attending, actually I can request for $1,000 for even laptop. And when I'm traveling, I request for money for travel, insurance, everything is covered. I remember one of my schools that I go, Florida State, I was going to pay the health insurance myself, but I don't think it's so much of a big money compared to what they are going to give you So just that it is nice if they are paying for it too, in addition to. So basically, you can actually like prepare money. You need money every time. You may never know when, because if you're going to apply for visa, so for this Stanford, this like I was talking about, that they are going to pay for my travel. It's not as if they are going to give me the money to. I have to pay for the flight first, and when I go, I will give receipts and they will reimburse the funds. So you would always need money, like at some point, to do one or two things. But at the end of the day, what you should get from the school should be able to relieve you of what you've spent. So now, if I look at what I'm getting now from Stanford, and I trace my mind back on what I spent on some of the schools I even applied to with my money, going up and down, requesting for transcript, is money, 10 CDs here and there, posting one or two things through the post office. I think I have not lost anything. That's what I will add. So basically, you want to get money for getting money's sake. You may never know, but at the end of the day, you should, what you receive from a funded program should be able to relieve you of what you have spent at that point that you are talking about. But if you are talking about the program itself, once you are in the States, under no condition are you supposed to use your money to do, like your personal money to do anything, because like if I mean personal money, the money that you have saved outside what the program has given you. But what the program has given you is what you use to perhaps pay for some of your rent, use some as your living expenses, and even some send some money to, if you have a relationship or whatever, a family or whatever, like that is the same money that you are going to use. So you don't use your
Okay, so okay, thank you very much. And I think to add on, I will say that you should also save towards any surprises that may come during the application processes. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Because at some point, but some schools are so flexible. So imagine, like, for example, if I don't have money now to travel, I'm sure the school would find a way. But you just want to, you have to save money for everything, even for unforeseen circumstances. So that is what I'll say. But I mean, the monies that you get from these schools, even low tax schools, are very good enough to supplement or take care of anything that you might have lost throughout your application process. So it's really tough process, but once you get in, trust me, you're going to love it. And to me, I think you can actually relieve, if not nothing at all, your parents from looking after you after graduation. So that is a good way if you don't have any other trajectory. But it's fine if you have other plans, because we all have to be diverse. No, not everybody should go to graduate school. But if you really want to go to graduate school, then I would encourage you to reach out. It's a simple process. You don't, no school is too big to accept you, and there's no school small to also bounce you, fortunately. Yeah.
Okay, so last question for the night, and we'll call it a day. So someone is asking whether the application process will start whilst you are in level 400 or after you are done with school. Let me say something before probably you add on. Like you were saying, the US, they apply whilst they are in 400. I think that I have a mentor who is at Indiana University, and he was saying that I should apply whilst I am in level 400. But I got to realize that, well, I have to do my service in Ghana. Doing my service before going to graduate school will be more helpful than going to graduate school and coming back to do the service. So I think for you to prevent all those ordeals that you need to go through if you do not do your service later on, I think that you should apply whilst you are doing your service. That would be the best period, because once you are in 400 and you apply, by the time the application will come in or the admission will be either or you may not have graduated and going will be a probably Kwame has some.
Yeah, I think your network was slowing down. I don't know if it's everyone that heard you. Yeah. So lastly, what I want to add to what you said quickly is the fact that if you wanted to apply to 400 and you've not started already, then you're already late. That is the first thing for you guys. But talking about answering the question, what I would say is you can apply at, in 400 or after 400. But the issue, as Frank said, is that even your lecturers, I don't know how they are going to be receptive. If you tell them you're applying to schools, they might think you are rushing here and there, though they are not supposed to do that anyways. But I will just, and perhaps if you are also not well grounded, don't forget you are in your final year, you'll be doing your project work, and like a whole lot of things will be happening, and you might not be able to get time to actually focus on this graduate school application. Unfortunately for us, okay, fortunately for you, I didn't have this opportunity for someone speaking to me when I was at this level. But if, let's say, people know about graduate school application from level 100, then it's easy for them to navigate through the process getting to level 400. They might have even drafted a statement of purpose and a whole lot, reached out to lecturers, mentors, and all that before. And that also reminds, when I talk about a recommendation, I'll talk more about that. You just don't need your department lecturers to recommend you anyway. It's not only them that you should also focus on. So talking about 400 in Ghana, it is tough. And to me, I would advise you finish your school, because I don't want application to rather distort your GPA. So you want to finish your school well, and when you are done during the service period, to me, national service is a period for you to figure out your life, not a period for you to be absorbed in anything that you are doing. Because after all, you might not be retained wherever that you are. So my simple advice is that you use the service period to navigate your life. You want to go to work, if you want to go to school, just prepare hard during your service and make sure that you accomplish your goal. And it's also no harm if you want to wait after service. Perhaps if you feel so pressured during service, you can wait after the service. But for me, I would just use the service time, because at the time you might be close to these lecturers. You don't want to be far away and be testing lecturers to recommend you. They might not respond to your messages. So you want to check all those things before you think of when to apply for graduate school.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Kwamena. It has been an insightful and educative night with you. I think by this time we don't have anybody that has a question. So we would like to make this a webinar kind of thing where every Wednesday we'll be touching on one particular thing, like the statement of purpose. We go into details of that, or probably CV. Like we take them one after the other, and then you throw more light on that. Is that possible with you, Kwamena?
Okay, so I guess first of all, before I answer that, I want to thank each and everybody, and hopefully I'll be available to answer most of the questions that you have. I can send my email to Frank so that you all get it, so you can reach me whenever you have issues. But lastly, I want to encourage you guys to be optimistic about whatever you do. If you want to go to graduate school, don't feel intimidated by anybody, because if you feel intimidated, one thing that I heard from one Stanford faculty that I would want to tell each and everyone before we end this program is, I told her that when at the interview that I learned you people like bouncing a lot of students, so I nearly didn't apply, and she laughed and it was like, yes, that is true. The program is very competitive, but if you don't apply, you don't get in. I don't know, it sounds like a trivial comment, but to me, I felt like it had weight. If you don't apply, you don't get in. So the first line of actually bouncing yourself from a school is you not applying. So you already bounce yourself before the school gets the chance to actually kick you out of the program. So I'll just encourage you, may never know what will happen, so just apply for it. But to answer Frank's question, so I'm happy to speak more about any subtopics into details, statement of purpose in other times. And I will also record, I've recorded this anyway, so you guys can actually listen to it later. So thank you very much for attending this Zoom meeting with the BCMB class of 2021. And I'm happy to see you again another time when we have other discussions on graduate school application process.